In Russia, NSA agent Jim McGrath intercepts the key to a bioweapon, but is soon chased by members of a terrorist group called Anarchy 99. Jim makes a run for it and gains access to a side door. Unfortunately, he ends up in the middle of a rock concert, the stronghold of Anarchy 99. The men outside call their boss Yorgi, but he has already spotted the agent making his way through the crowd. Yorgi calls over his shooter Kirill, who grabs a scoped-out revolver and takes aim at Jim. As the agent is about to escape, Kirill shoots him in the back and Jim's body is crowd-surfed as the men get their hands on the key. In Virginia at a top-secret NSA facility, Augustus Gibbons is called in by the top brass. The NSA team received a bit of data Jim was able to upload before he was shot, and Gibbons points it out to be a part of a biochemical compound which intelligence says is being used to develop a weapon called the Silent Night. Gibbons tells them about Anarchy 99 and their military background, and how they can spot a trained agent miles away. Based on this, Gibbons proposes that they think out of the box. He shows them a list of mercenaries and lowlifes, explaining that to catch a snake, they need to send a snake of their own. In California, a state senator hands over his Corvette to the valet after berating him about his ethnicity. The valet turns out to be Xander Cage, extreme stuntman and activist. Cage whips the car and takes off at a high rate of speed, smashing a mirror, causing the senator to call the cops. Cage meets up with his team who strap cameras to the car and broadcast his crime. With the cops hot on his trail, you would think Cage stole the senator's car because of wage increase or corruption. Nope, the senator wants to ban video games, so Cage's appropriate response is to steal his Corvette. Cage gets to the highway where a ramp has been set up and his entire team waiting below, cameras pointed at him. In a high-intensity moment, he runs the car over the ramp, and opens his parachute. Meanwhile the Porsche crashes in a ball of fire. His team has recovered the cameras, how? Only God knows, and they speed off with Cage while the cops can only watch. Later, Cage gets back to his home on an empty side of town, where his team and other friends surprise him with a party to celebrate his latest application to federal prison. Cage's friend JJ comes over telling that he needs to lay low, after throwing him a big-ass party, but Cage thinks that everything is under control. No, they're not, as the FBI suddenly raid the building. The agents surround Cage and shoot him with a tranquilizer dart. Cage wakes up in a diner and the waitress tells him that two guys dropped him off, but something isn't adding up. The waitress seems nervous, hinting to the man sitting beside Cage. The man suddenly pulls a gun along with his partner sitting behind Cage in an apparent robbery, but Cage easily disarms and knocks down both men. Gibbons reveals himself congratulating Cage on passing his test. Cage points out all the inconsistencies in Gibbons' setup, even knowing that the guns had blanks. Gibbons explains that it was a test and that he is taking things to the next level. Cage refuses to play along with his games, but the waitress shoots him with a tranquilizer once more. Cage then wakes up on board a military transport alongside three other men like himself, who turn out to be the finalists on Who Wants to Be a NSA Spy. The soldiers on board the plane tie the men together, and use a parachute to yank them from the plane. The three men end up in Colombia, scaring the poppy farmers who run away shouting "Gringos." Suddenly a convoy of soldiers begin approaching them, and while the other two men run away, Cage thinks it's all a game as the soldiers pull up to him. Cage asks for a drink, but gets a nap instead. He wakes up inside a shed tied to the ceiling by his arms and the other two men tied up at his feet, but they still think that this is a simple test. Outside the compound, the Colombian leader El Jefe, turns up, but all the men start laughing at him. El Jefe then picks up a machete, threatening the men who laugh that the machete is taller than he is. El Jefe begins slapping Cage, who starts getting serious, but when the machete nears his face, he realizes that it smells like real blood. Realizing the danger, Cage kicks El Jefe away before skillfully freeing himself. Suddenly, the Colombian army copters turn up and begin opening fire on the entire compound. El Jefe tries to escape in his car, but the chopper rips his car to shreds, killing him. Cage tries helping one man who has been shot, but the other grabs a key and decides to risk it for the biscuit. Cage throws the other over his shoulder and braves the explosions around him before resting the man in nearby bushes. He goes looking for something to use to get them both out of there and spots a bike in bushes. Cage rides back through the chaos, but a chopper has its sights on him and opens fire. Cage is calling for the man he left behind, narrowly avoiding a massive explosion, then clearly disrespecting the laws of gravity to escape almost being cornered. Cage again displays anti-gravity abilities by lifting the bike over 20 feet to knock out a guard in the lookout tower. He still hasn't lost the chopper, but spots a large oil store nearby and gets an idea. He rides the bike over the building, which causes a massive explosion when hit with the bullets, and uses the diversion to slide another 20 feet into a tunnel, causing the soldiers to think that they killed him. Cage runs to find the man, but gets surrounded by US soldiers in camouflage. By the next morning, Gibbons comes to find Cage, who is pissed at Gibbons for almost killing him. Gibbons is impressed with the skills he displayed last night and offers Cage a job to get some information in exchange for his freedom. Cage is transported to Prague, where he meets with the Czech Secret Service agent Milan Sova, who tries to bully Cage but learns who has the big cojones on his operation. Sova takes Cage to an Anarchy 99 club and points out Yorgi, the leader. Cage makes his way over to Yorgi, gaining access to his VIP room, pretending to ask about cars. Yorgi's men almost throw him out, until Cage points out Sova as a cop. Yorgi has his men call Sova over and Cage shows them his ID, causing Yorgi to throw him out. Yorgi's younger brother Kolya recognizes Cage from his extreme stunt videos and turns out to be a fan of his. Based on this, Yorgi welcomes Cage to talk business. Cage explains that he wants 10 cars on behalf of his so-called American buyers, so Yorgi's girl Yelena gives him an account number to have him transfer $1 million within 48 hours. After partying with Yorgi, Cage gets a call from Gibbons about changes he made to the list of cars, but Cage reveals that he was able to get information on the Anarchy 99 members and also a personal bank account number. With his mission complete, Cage wants to return home, but Gibbons, not revealing the true nature of the mission, wants Cage to go deeper undercover within Anarchy 99 and find more info. The next day, Gibbons sends over Agent Shavers, a tech specialist, who gives Cage a special revolver that fires specialized darts and bullets, X-ray vision binoculars and powerful explosives disguised as bandages. Cage turns up to check out the cars that Yorgi has provided and the deal goes down smoothly. Did I say smoothly? Forget that. Agent Sova and other agents are creeping outside the building. Sova goes for a better look and ends up smashing in the entire window, giving away his presence. Cage and Yorgi have a standoff, but convincing each other that their attacker is not on their side, they set off to capture him. Sova barely makes it back to the street when Cage and Yorgi start to drive him down. Cage cannot allow Yorgi to shoot Sova, so he uses a blood-splattered dart to hit Sova in the back. Thinking he is dead, Yorgi welcomes Cage to Anarchy 99. After a party at the gang's hideout, Cage is snooping around looking for information when he hears someone come in. It is Yelena, who reveals a secret vault hidden in the floor and begins to take pictures and attempting to hack in. Cage confronts her, but instead of blowing her cover, he invites her to have lunch with him. Meanwhile, Yorgi gets a call from Sova, who betrays Cage and reveals his true identity. Cage also reveals his real identity to Yelena as a secret agent. Yelena laughs at him, not believing him, but right after she gets a call from Kirill telling her to beware of Cage as he works for the US government. Kirill tells her to lure Cage outside as he is posted there with a sniper rifle ready to kill him. Yelena now believes Cage, but wants him to help her escape the country in return for info on the gang. She reveals that Yorgi knows his true identity, so Cage gets an idea to escape the restaurant. Cage uses Yelena as a shield, then fakes a fight with her before making a run for it, with Kirill firing at him. Cage uses a waiter's tray as a goddamn skateboard to evade Kirill, but before he can escape, NSA agents suddenly turn up and take Cage away. The agents take Cage to meet Gibbons in an opera theater, where the agent tells Cage to return to America now that his cover has been blown. The NSA team has gathered enough information and will be sending in a sweeper team to kill everyone. Cage tells Gibbons about Yelena, but Gibbons does not care and tells Cage to follow orders. Well, you hired him because of his rebellious ways, so you get what you pay for. Cage sneaks into the gang's compound, takes out one lookout, then pastes the Band-Aid bombs onto the bikes nearby. Cage spots Yorgi taking Yelena to their secret underground area and knocks out the guard posted out front. Cage ends up in an underground maze of tunnels, but follows Yorgi's voice to see them enter through a large door. Inside, Yelena sees a number of scientists working on the Silent Night and a large solar-powered submarine designed to carry a payload. Cage uses the X-ray binoculars to see into the room and begins taking pictures of the submarine and the scientists. The scientists have successfully completed the Silent Night biobomb and all begin to celebrate their hard work, but Yorgi and his team lock themselves behind glass and activate the bomb. As the scientists beg to be released, the missile launches and explodes, spreading the toxic gases all around the room, killing everyone to the horror of Yelena and Cage. Two guards come out to check and Cage ambushes them. An alarm is raised and Yorgi sends his men along with Kolya to check. The men spot Cage and open fire, but Cage shoots a nearby steam pipe, giving him time to escape the facility. Cage manages to jump on a nearby bike, taking off the bomb before speeding off under heavy gunfire. The gate's almost close on him, but Cage with a bike is unstoppable and he launches himself over the gate, killing a guard along the way. Kolya jumps on a bike to give chase after Cage, but as he also jumps over the gate, Cage detonates the bombs, killing Kolya in the process. Cage gets back to his hideout to see Sova waiting there for him. Suddenly, Sova pulls a gun on him, revealing that he is now working with Yorgi. Before he can shoot Cage, Gunshots rip him to shreds. It is Yelena who enters the room with two other men, revealing herself to be a Russian agent. Cage passes the images and intel over to Gibbons, who reveals that telling Cage not to go after Yorgi was the plan to get him motivated. Gibbons orders Cage to return home, but Cage is now focused on Yorgi and the submarine and wants to go after him. Against orders, Cage has Shavers load up his car with weapons and meets with the Czech Secret Service to plan an infiltration of the Anarchy compound. They need to first destroy a communications tower, so Cage gets himself a pilot. He dives from a plane near the group's hideout and snowboards down the mountain. The men in the lookout spot him and soon a small army of men jump on snowmobiles to intercept Cage. Cage spots the men coming, so he drops 2 grenades nearby, which causes a massive avalanche to occur. Cage is somehow able to stay ahead of the avalanche, which begins to wipe out the men on their bikes, and he is barely able to grab onto a nearby pole as the snow destroys the communication tower. Cage manages to recover, but is quickly surrounded and captured and taken before Yorgi, who reveals that he knew about Yelena being a secret agent but enjoyed using her. Yorgi begins his evil guy monologue, thinking that wiping out half the world's population equates to freedom. Just as Yorgi is about to kill Cage, the NSA task force along with Czech Secret Service launch their attack. A gunfight erupts in the room as Yorgi and Kirill fire on Cage and Yelena, who are forced to take cover. Yorgi grabs the hard drive to launch the submarine, so Cage and Yelena give chase. Yorgi is preparing to launch the submarine loaded with toxic gas, leaving Kirill behind to hold off the advancing task force. Cage and Yelena get to the underground room where Kirill has taken up a sniper position and holding the entire task force back. The men have a heat seeker missile nearby, and remembering that Kirill is always smoking, Cage fires the missile, which kills Kirill. Yorgi meanwhile has managed to launch the submarine and set it on autopilot and towards its target. As Yorgi is making his escape in a boat, Cage opens fire on him and manages to hit him, causing his boat to crash and kill him. Cage and Yelena jump into his car, now powered up by Shavers, and instantly catches up with the ship, now speeding. Cage realizes that he has to get on top the ship to stop it. Meanwhile, Gibbons, who is on his way, decides to call in airstrikes to stop the ship. Cage tells Yelena to take over driving and prepares a harpoon gun. They eject the roof and Cage successfully fires into the ship, then opens his parachute. Cage manages to rappel down onto the ship and disables the weapon moments before it goes off. Cage and Yelena are recovered, and Gibbons follows through on his promises. In the conclusion, Cage and Yelena are relaxing in Bora Bora when Gibbons contacts Cage to offer him another mission, but Cage ignores him. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you can watch more movies like this. Thanks for watching.